if you could rewrite one industry norm to create more purpose-driven capital flow kind of style, what it will be?
I actually would go back probably to when I was a patent attorney.
Andrea, tell us about you, because you also have a pretty cool background too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Lindsay and I have in common is a winding road. And I think that speaks to our excitement and passion about everything that we do because that winding path hasn't been because I haven't enjoyed anything. It's because I've enjoyed so much.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. In that journey, what you wish you can rewrite, let's call it like that, more purpose-driven capital flows. What would that be? Welcome, everyone. I am super excited today because I am meeting two amazing women that they decide to take a leap of faith from being excellent professional to going their own with an amazing stories, technical background. They have been in the mail industry and they have so much great information to share with you, not only in what they do, but also in who they are as women. They will inspire you, they will move you, and they will make you laugh too. So I want to welcome Andrea Scott and Linzey Erickson. So how are you, ladies?
Doing really well, thank you. Thanks for having us on, Jen.
Yes, I'm super excited for hearing your stories. I will just ask you a few questions because I'm really blown away. So do you want me to start with Andrea, with Linzey, or how do we want to do this?
Dealer's choice, you choose.
Okay, Lisa, give me a really big smile. So Lisa, let's start with you.
All right.
So Lisa, tell us a little bit a background about you, and later we will start asking some questions, but tell us about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, my name is Lindsay. My background is actually as an attorney. I started out my career as a patent lawyer. I had an undergrad degree in chemistry and chemical engineering. And so my career has taken a winding path and eventually went, as many attorneys do, in-house. And that's where I sort of cut my teeth in M&A work and real estate work and private placement work and things of that nature, and eventually moved my family to North Dakota. I'm from North Dakota originally. And when I made that leap, that's where I cut my teeth very specifically in the hospitality industry. So I had a lot of commercial real estate experience, private offering experience. And when I jumped, I became very specific in the hospitality field. So acquired a couple dozen hotels alongside Andrea, who will introduce herself in a moment. And then, as you said, we decided you can only do something for other people for so long until you start to think, I can do this on my own. And that's what we did.
That's awesome. Before I jump to Andrea, I want to ask you a question because you come from these scientific background, data driven into another area that is a combination of warmth and experience and purpose. So if you could rewrite one industry norm to create more purpose driven capital flow kind of style, what it will be?
In any of the industries that you're talking about?
Yes.
I actually would go back probably to when I was a patent attorney. And I think a lot of times the people in those roles, in order to be a licensed patent attorney, you have to have a science undergrad. And so those people by their nature are often more soft-spoken, very comfortable sitting behind a computer, rather than being able to go into interviews with inventors who, to your point about purpose, are at whatever company building whatever product they are with passion. And they don't often have an attorney alongside of them who can say, whoa, this is so cool. Have you thought about this application? Now, obviously, from a legal standpoint, you don't want the attorney to start looking like an inventor too, but there ought to be, and I wish there was, and in my experience, there really needs to be more collaboration, more understanding of the people behind the products you're working with on the attorney role in those situations, because they are working with like the best and brightest in their fields. in pharmaceuticals, in medical devices, in all these things that impact everyone's day-to-day lives and are in such an interesting position where they could truly impact and I think further those industries. And so, hopefully if there's more women in those roles, when I was working there were very few. I was at a very large law firm. We had about 100 people in our intellectual property practice at the time, and less than a third of us were women. And even less than those were actually licensed patent attorneys. So hopefully that's building, but that would be the area I would pick.
Awesome. Awesome. Bringing more women and also restructuring how we do that. Okay. Got it. So Andrea, tell us about you, because you also have a pretty cool background too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Linzey and I have in common is a winding road. And I think that speaks to our excitement and passion about everything that we do, because that winding path hasn't been because I haven't enjoyed anything. It's because I've enjoyed so much in my journey. But I'm the daughter of a real estate attorney back when there were landlines, and my dad was constantly closing deals. And as a little kid, I remember sitting on the other side of the wall by the dining room table, listening to him troubleshoot in a very effective way. That was before cell phones, right? It was before car phones. And so I got to hear one side of the equation on the transaction side. And I too, I actually thought I was going to go into law. I started my undergraduate work at James Madison College at Michigan State, thinking I would be an attorney, but was really focused on deal making. I love coordinating people inside of projects around a common goal. And I felt like the best purpose for me was actually outside of that legal sphere and sitting in a seat of being forward facing and identifying what's important to each stakeholder in an opportunity, and how do we structure something that's both accretive but also leaves everyone feeling excited about having done business together. So have done everything from run small family businesses to being a consultant in an HR space, to working for a private equity, deploying capital and hospitality, where I met Linzey. And ultimately, I'm really thrilled to be back in the entrepreneurial seat here at our firm today.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, in your journey, Andrea, is there anything too that you wish you could change in your path from wanting to be an attorney to manage, and I'm going to say it, acquisition of $400 million for your former employee? In that journey, what you wish you can rewrite, let's call it like that, more purpose-driven capital flows, what would that be?
I think there's this always this element of where you can be incredibly confident and know that you have all the puzzle pieces to do it for yourself. Like Linzey said, you can only build wealth for other people for so long before you're focused on, well, I want to build that for myself, and I want to build it for the people in my Rolodex, right, that are interested in investments. If I had the opportunity to rewrite any chapter in my book, it probably would have been that I didn't stifle the voice telling me to jump for as long as I did before I took my leap. But the flip side of that coin is that Linzey and I worked together at that firm for, was it about 18 months, Linzey? Part of which you were out on maternity leave. And so if I would have jumped when I initially started to say, it's time for me to take that leap of faith, my partnership with her wouldn't look like it looks today. So there's silver linings and serendipity behind every circumstance.
That's amazing. So you got into this journey, you follow the common path, what everybody says, this is your freedom, get a good career, let's make some money together. And then you ladies meet, and then suddenly there's this synchronicity, this power, this share of values to where you are today. You got the attorney backgrounds, which it leads me to, these ladies want to make things right. They want to handle things with delicacy and data driven and making sure facts are the facts. So tell me about that coalition between the two of you, and what was the moment that defined for each of you, hey, I want to start dating you as a partner because I want to do this hotel thing, that it combined pretty amazing warmth from getting to know how to be a good host to really make money for investors. Tell me when that happened, and how was that moment? What really brought us together, brought both of you together?
So I don't know that we've said this today yet, but Andrea actually left the firm that we were formerly at first. left. She left with our third business partner. So Andrea and I also have a third business partner. He's a gentleman. He's wonderful. And he creates kind of the remaining pieces that we need. He does our financial modeling. So as you say, Andrea and I have an amazing, I think, synergies and different ways that we approach things in different perspectives, but we have highly complementary skills and work well together. He does likewise, but the two of them had left, and we were actually working on a deal, a real estate deal, unrelated to what their firm was doing at the time and what I was doing at my firm. It was going to be kind of separate on the side. And it was through that transaction, which ultimately failed. We ended up not transacting in that space. But it was through those ongoing conversations where I at least thought to myself, I miss doing business with them, the way that they structure things, the way that Andrea thinks about things, and the project management that she brings to all the deals that she does. But on top of that, I might be able to complement them and we might be able to do more together. And so it was really that for me. I knew I could do it, but then when you have somebody has left and they're starting to form it right at the base and we start to talk to one another, it was like, why this all came together exactly like it needed to, because the light bulb went off for me that it was absolutely the right fit and the time to go.
That's amazing. Andrea, what about you?
Yeah, so it's the same story, right? The same narrative, but we had two different approaches to it. And Linzey's being gracious. At the firm that I left, she was my leader. And so I negotiated the terms of my exit from that firm with her. So while we stayed in touch and we did that successfully, I mean, that's a testament to doing things successfully together, right? I have a way of being incredibly excited and enthusiastic, but I can also sometimes like catastrophize situations. And so it's our third business partner, Brendan, who's not on the line, that Linzey was saying, hey guys, when you took your leap, who designed your website? How did you do your branding? Like, she started asking questions about being an entrepreneur. And then on the side, I was having conversations with Brendan, like, why is she asking me these questions? What might we have done wrong through our exit? I want to be able to be proud of the way that I exited our former employer. And he so simply said, like, nah, you're looking at that all wrong. She's going to join us, right? So he was able to take what was like probably kind of ruminating a little bit cloudy in my mind and so simply say, like, this is absolutely the right path for us. And she brings a skill set, like she said, that can help us all go together, further together, and be good stewards of being a real estate sponsor, right? So that moment for me was sitting on a couch next to Brendan in our first office space, where he was just like, stop overthinking this one, Andrea, let's go. And it took him recognizing where my mind was going and just calling a spade, that I was like, duh, why didn't I think of that?
That's awesome. That's amazing. So I can see how both of you have respect from each other, share common values. You saw not only what the other person is good at it, but you recognize what you're good at it and how they can work together, right? Which is sometimes really hard. I think that a lot of people like each other, they get into a partnership without that clarity, and it just becomes an issue. Can you share 3 tips of ways that people can be successful in partnerships?
I mean, a partnership really truly is like a marriage. A business partner is like a marriage in a lot of ways. Linzey, if it's okay, I'll just maybe share one and then you can jump in because I think you have some ideas too. But I think for me, the first time I owned my own business, I did it on my own. And that was really rewarding. And there were a lot of things about that was easy. But when you are looking for a partner, I think a lot of folks look for someone who thinks exactly like they think and has skill sets that look exactly like theirs. And like we've touched on, we're actually a triangle of skill sets inside of our firm that are very complementary. And so that's something that I learned as I have aged and have gone on in my journey, that when you're looking for partners, you need to look at what can they offer that I cannot, and then trust them, trust them to be experts in their space and know, like, that is not my lane. This is Linzey's lane, and she's so good in that lane that I am looking forward to learning from her, but I'm also not going to get in her way.
Yeah, I can jump in with the other two. So then we get to your three, Jen. I see this both now having experienced it in our own firm, but I still do operate in a law firm. And actually, Andrea knows this. A number of my recent clients have been partnership issues. And so I think navigating those partnership issues on behalf of my law firm clients, I hope Andrea and Brendan feel like I've become a better partner to them, but that has illuminated, I think, two really key things related to how you form a successful partnership. Andrea touched on the soft science and the practical nature after you're in it. From my standpoint, at least on things you can control, is having a well-documented operating agreement in advance when nobody is fighting and everything is going well, and you have a plan and everybody can agree on how you value the firm, what it would look like if someone needs to be bought out, what it looks like if there are disagreements on decisions, all of those things that are really impossible to talk about partway through when things aren't going very well can be very easily dealt with in advance when you don't know which side of the issue you're going to be on. And so having and very, very few partnerships, especially small ones, have that type of forethought, and they're not in those types of clauses, and provisions are not in template operating agreements that you can get off Google. They're very specific, but I would encourage everybody to think about, what do we do if things go wrong, and how can I document that in advance? I'd say the second one that I learned, and it's related to that and a little to what Andrea just said, is if you let things fester, they will become big issues. And so we practice in our partnership, I think, fairly well. If something begins to come up, we have standing calls twice a week. And we are pretty direct when things need to be discussed, and then they never become issues because we can talk through them, everybody, and we always come to the right resolution through the three of us. And I think if you have mutual respect for one another, that will always be the outcome.
That's for sure. Communication and those partnerships safe. And I heard from an attorney completely different. I think it was a divorce attorney, that the best time to fight, it's upfront when you are not fighting. So this is why you should draft these documents accordingly. So
like Andrea said, it's like a marriage relationship.
yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that's why I refer.
My dad always used to.
Your dad?
Oh, I was just going to say, my dad always used to say the best time to talk about the end is in the beginning, and that's true in business and in personal. And like, not to be morbid, but sometimes that means, like, what does it look like if someone passes away in a marriage or in a family? And so I think that I know that I respect Linzey's position incredibly well, because I was brought up by someone who just said the time to talk about that is not after the thing has happened. Like, what are the things that could happen, and how do you prepare for them when everybody's got a calm, level head?
Yes, yeah, that's true. That it's right on point. So you got from having these experiences as scientists to create this partnership to acquire hotels in Alabama, far from home. And also you create this relationship with a third person, and he's a guy, so he's not here today. Got it. But tell me about how it has been your journey in the hospitality. One, it's male dominated, commercial real estate, hospitality. Let's not even get into that. And in fact, a lot of the good deals come from bad partnerships in hotels. It has been my experience. So tell me about that journey and what changes you guys will be doing on new acquisitions. I want to see how the future looks for Andrea and Linzey in the hospitality industry.
Okay, perfect. So I think that you touched on a couple of things, which is why hospitality, maybe three. What's it like to be in a male-dominated industry, and then what's the future look like? So I'll try to touch on a couple of those and let Linzey touch on the rest. I started being an LP in multifamily and in self-storage, and that is what got me investor curious. So go back to former careers of mine where I wasn't in a spot to be making those types of decisions, or maybe I was and I didn't realize that I was. But I think every good sponsor is always looking at growing their investor base, and sometimes that takes, like, I was a fragile egg at that point in time and I knew nothing, but I like to learn by doing. So I started investing as an LP, a limited partner, in other asset classes. And it wasn't until this private equity firm that was focused in hospitality that I really saw the benefits of hospitality investing. First of all, I love the concept of meeting and exceeding people's expectations and making them feel welcome and taken care of, from like generally in hospitality. But on the investment side, there's some really great tax benefits associated with hospitality investments that make it really, really challenging to look at pivoting into other asset classes. And so I often say hospitality investments got their tentacles on me accidentally, but like I'm like allowing them to wrap their arms around me now and going forward. So that's why hospitality assets for me is the ability to take advantage of depreciation strategy with the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that are contained within the four walls, and what that means for us as sponsors, but most importantly, what it means for our investors as limited partners. And being a woman in a male-dominated industry, I feel like I should have a lot to say about that, but the reality is, in each step of my career, that was always the norm. I never felt like I wasn't confident enough in myself to invite my own self to the table, and no one ever asked me to get up from it, right? But it takes the self-confidence to be able to say, like, it doesn't matter that everyone in that room looks different than I do from a gender perspective. Like, I belong in that room, and I am going in that room, and I am bringing value to that room. And I hear from some of my friends pretty regularly, like, that must have been really hard, but I don't think I had another option, right? It just is what it is. But I also think, going back to my family, I have 4 older brothers. And so I may be someone that's more confident in a male-dominated space just by birth order and gender inside my large family, quite frankly. So that piece of it isn't intimidating to me. And I often have to stop and reflect and realize that it is special. Like when we were at Beth's event and we were surrounded by women, I almost got tearful. I looked at Linzey and I said, never in my career have I been surrounded by more women than men. And I think that moment, I realized how truly powerful that can be.
I'll echo, why hospitality, and then jump to where I think we're likely to go. In addition to what Andrea said, and I wholly agree with her, especially on the tax play, our investors love to be able to both receive cash distributions, and also get a K1 that has a loss on it rather than a gain on it. And that being able to defer taxes can become a little bit addicting, not just for us, but I think for our investor base as well. And so we constantly, it's, May of 2025, and we haven't yet transacted this year. And I'm beginning to get phone calls saying, are we going to get something in this year? Because I'd really like, especially that first year, because of bonus depreciation. We get a really nice kicker in the first year that we're invested in a hotel. And so, we have lots of people who really enjoy that benefit. From my standpoint, we are going to, for that reason, we'll continue to look in hospitality, and we do have some things in the works, which we're really excited about, but not probably quite prepared to discuss. So we feel confident that we're going to have a transaction or two still yet in 2025. But I do think that beyond that, our group is willing to kind of, right now we look at, branded hotels, Marriott, Hilton, IHG, kind of standard box, 80 to 200 rooms. And we have a very specific demographic that we are looking at. One thing for the future that we have sort of, honestly, after Beth's event, right, Andrea, we started to sort of pick our head up and say, are we leaving opportunity on the table because we have a wheelhouse? We know we do these types of hotels really well. We know exactly how to buy them. We know we can run them well. but are we leaving opportunities out there? Point, I think it's that. I think it's maybe staying in hospitality, but looking more broadly at what we would be interested in. Is development interesting? Are there other non-branded opportunities or larger or smaller hotels? What can we start to look at?
That's amazing. In fact, I'm very excited, and for the future too. I'm looking at that. I'm looking to we should set up a technical podcast moment where we really discuss the hospitality industry and we get into the nuts and bolts, because ladies, you are doing amazing regardless the challenges of dealing with a franchise that they strip control what you do with your own hotel, and they strip your money. Right, nothing against franchises. As you know, I hospitality for me, I love it. I prefer to stay in the independent side because it comes with more flexibility. It has some pros too. And I know that we can get into this journey, and the intention today is people to get to know who is Andrea, who is Linzey, have a glance. Now, if they wanted to get to know you more, where is a place that they can go to connect with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our website, www.accomplishedcollective.com, is probably the best place. It's a direct link to get in touch with Linzey or myself, but our emails are pretty simple as well. Email signatures have our cell phones. We're real people. We're a tiny but mighty team. There's the 3 of us and no employees. So most folks will check us out on the web and then say, this is who I feel like I'm, want to connect with. And we're really good at being responsive. But I welcome for you to share our email addresses, which you have, Jen, and in the comments of the podcast or anything like that. We're open 24/7.
Perfect. I will make sure I put the link below. And after that, we will really get into a more technical conversation where we get into the nuts and bolts of hospitality, especially that not many women are in this space. So I always get super excited when I get to share with other women in the same type of asset. So, well, thank you, Andrea.
We'd love that.
Yes, right? Thank you, Andrea, for your time, and Linzey for being at the show today and give a little bit of your spark with our audience. I'm looking forward for our next meeting.